In this video, I'm going to be breaking down for you step by step exactly how my company hires A players seemingly on autopilot for my portfolio of companies, which collectively last year did over $30 million in revenue. By the end of this video, you'll be able to hire like a multi-million-dollar company does. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to be going through the job description that you're going to create for the new role you're going to hire. Then from there, we're going to identify what are the key responsibilities you need that role to do for you and your company. Then once we have that identified, we're going to build the job description together. Once we have the job description built, then we're going to move on to the hiring process, which includes how are we going to identify what we're going to pay this role? And then how are we going to actually go about hiring them? What platforms are we going to use? And then from there, now we're actually going into doing the interviews. What questions are we going to ask? And then how are we going to, actually make a data-driven decision on the hire we're going to make. As we go through this, there's a lot of resources and a lot of tools that I'm going to be utilizing along this process. In the description below the YouTube video, you can click the link to be able to get access to any of the resources that I'm talking about. And then there are some certain things that the Scale with Pros community only have access to, but you will be able to as you go through this. So as we dive in, obviously right here up on the screen, we have sample job description template. So what we're going to be going over from start to finish today is this. We're going to be looking at creating a job description from scratch. We're going to then take that job description and take that to how are we going to do the compensation research for what we're going to pay the role we're going to hire. Then what are we going to do in the interview process? And then how are we going to filter down to make a decision on a candidate that we want to hire for our company. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And for the resources and templates and things that you see in this YouTube video, you can check the description below and be able to get access to any of the resources that I'm utilizing here today. So let's go ahead, dive right in. And for this example today, I had to just pick a role. So the role that I'm picking that we're going to be mock hiring together is going to be an executive assistant. And so I have a few different tools that I use for actually getting this role hired. And so as you see on my screen here, this is a sample job description. I took it from one of our sales director role. And so this is a template that, again, you can get in the description. But we will be changing this around to match for an executive assistant. But this template will give you a good running start of what the finished product should look like. And we're going to be going back and forth from some of the tools that we're going to use and this template here to build out our job description. So what we're going to do is, first things first, again, we are hiring an executive assistant for this role. And what we're going to be using here is ChatGPT. I created a custom prompt that learned our entire page 1 and 2 of our job description template. And it will be there to help assist you in creating this a lot faster than doing this all from scratch. So we're going to go ahead and use that together. Here we are on ChatGPT. For those that have not used ChatGPT before, you can set up an account for free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's highly recommended. We use it in all of our companies on a regular basis. So I'm just going to ask him, help me out here. Please write a JD for a new hire. And then essentially what it's doing is from that template that I had, we taught it the template, and this is going to basically give you what you are going to need to finalize that job description. So it's going to, put all of this out to help you kind of work through all of the information you need to give it. And so let's go ahead and do this together right now. Job title, I am hiring for an executive assistant. Let's see what else we got here. Role description. Let me give it some insight. I own a portfolio of companies and sit as the acting CEO of those companies. And I would be counting on this executive assistant to help me with multiple tasks professionally, as well as personal tasks such as managing my house utilities, making all of my personal life payments, planning travel, events, etc. I'm just going to give it just some stuff. I'm just giving it some ideas here. Let's see, key responsibilities, who you are, must-have qualifications, nice to have. Okay. With all of that being said, can you please fill out all of the fields you provided above to the best of your ability. So let's just see what it comes out with here. And so just a key thing to keep in mind, guys, this ChatGPT prompt isn't perfect, but what it does is it allows you to save a lot of time. It'll be able to help you work through these things a lot faster because this is literally typing out all of this. And so we're going to be going back and forth a little bit here as we build this. So it's already given me some stuff. So let's see what we got here. So role description, we are going to jump to our other template here. Let's see what our key responsibilities and objectives are. So we're looking at the main key responsibilities and objectives here on ChatGPT. Now let's jump over to our job description template, and I will copy and paste these over. Okay, so you'll have noticed I already put these items all here from our ChatGPT response. Again, the goal here is to have it minimum viable done. It's not going to be perfect on this one YouTube video, but I'm just trying to show you guys how fast you can do this and that you could just amend these items on here. One key point on the primary responsibilities that we give to a role, I always like to keep it at 3 to 4 key responsibilities, which are the bolded items here, and then provide additional clarity next to the bolded items of like what that essentially entails so the candidate could get a good idea of what it looks like for the specific role. So that's what we're doing here in our key responsibilities. Once that is done, then we can move on to our next section. So that is what we got there. And then just to touch on real quick, you can literally just take our template. This is what we have written as a quick thing for one of our holding companies, Manifest You. You can steal it, keep what you like, get rid of what you don't. And then on here, who we are, what we're looking for. This is relevant to our company, but you just need to make it relevant for your company. So I'm going to just amend this more for an executive assistant. So our company is on the hunt for an executive assistant who can take, I'm going to say this, who can take chaos and create organization out of it, because that's what I need my executive assistant to do for me. We need someone who is obsessed with creating, let's say this, let's look at our responsibilities, creating organizational systems. So let's just say that, let's see, organizational systems, obsessed with the details and making sure things are done right and on time, relevant, and bring in our okay. This is very important to our organization and is an excellent core value fit, both inside and outside the workplace. So again, you edit this to your specific companies, what's relevant to you for the why work for us and who we are, what we're looking for. Again, we got our key responsibilities here that we've identified for the role. Now let's go back to ChatGPT and see what else we got. Next thing we have here. So we have our who you are section. What's the purpose of this? We also have a who you are not. This is optional if you want to have a who you're not. I do like having at least one of the two, but this is up to you. Some of our teams and our department managers have one or the other or both. So it's just really up to you. So who you are. So let's just steal this right from here. Go back to our JD. So let's just erase all of this because that was sales director. And let's drop it in and see if this is relevant. And I'm going to remove that and just have bullet points. Exceptionally skilled at managing complex calendars, multiple priorities. Yep, that would be relevant. Relevant, proactive, strong sense of confidentiality. Yep. Let's remove this. I mean, yeah, that's I'm just gonna we'll do an example with this because I like having both. For me, any roles I hire, I like to have both, but again, it's your preference here. So we'll delete that. So this is all things that I would agree with. These are all relevant for, when we look at what we need in this role, this is what we need. And so what's the purpose of this? You want someone to be reading this and they should be saying heck yes or heck no when they're looking at this role, because I want to polarize people that work at my companies because I want them to be really excited and fired up to come work here, or I want them to not even apply. That's my goal and intent with this section here. So let's see what ChatGPT had for our who you are not. Okay, so had a couple of bullet points here. So let's just, again, we're going to steal these from ChatGPT. Bam, let's go back. Here we go. Someone who requires a highly structured, repetitive role with little variability. Yep, that would not be good for an executive assistant because there is chaos every day. For context, I do have an executive assistant, and I came into the office this morning and I'm like, hey, I have a flat tire in my Mercedes. I need this to get taken to Discount Tire. And I gave her a list of other things. I need this DocuSign to go out, this and that, and all sorts of different stuff on her plate today. So there's tons of variability in this role, which is why I like keeping this there, because it's true. Someone uncomfortable with managing personal life. Yeah. I mean, if someone had an issue, for example, with like, oh, I'm not going to go to your house and like meet the cleaners there and let them in, or I'm not going to meet a landscaper there for a project you have at your house, like that would be a problem for me because I need them to help me out with my personal life. I need them to do this. That's part of the role. So that's where this could be relevant. So you don't even have to talk to someone that wouldn't be open to doing that. Okay. Then let's see what we got here for the gotta have and nice to have. Okay, so we have our must have, and I'm just going to copy and paste these really quick, and then we're going to clean them up together. And again, you could be doing this just alongside me with the templates and resources. This is kind of a lot. I'm going to try to have this be like 3 or 4 bullets on both of these. So I just don't want this big, long wall of text because people have the attention span of a goldfish a lot of times. So you want to try to make it easy to read through. Gotta have. I don't really care if they had, for this particular role, 5 years executive experience. If you're hiring for a role and you're hiring maybe a media buyer to run your Facebook and Instagram ads, your meta ads, you need someone that has probably, that 3 to 5 years experience. But here's the thing. I hired my executive assistant, and she had other roles that were very relevant that allowed her to do really well in this role, where she's worked in very high attention to detail bookkeeping, other accounts payable, accounts receivable roles that are very high attention to detail, very deadline oriented, and very much like it has to be done a specific way, which is very helpful for the transition for her. And she was used to having to collaborate with other team members, so she was a good people person. So again, you need to put your gotta haves in here as the things that if the candidate came in and didn't have it, you just absolutely couldn't hire them. So here, again, I don't really care about this either. Exceptional organization and time management skills, absolutely. Strong proficiency in calendar management, travel arrangement, and task prioritization, absolutely. Yes, this is a key one. My EA, she manages my personal money. She oversees our business money. She oversees my personal investments. She oversees my personal bills, everything, like my entire life. And so this is extremely important. Oops. Got to have excellent written and verbal. Absolutely. If she's writing, because if you email me, 98% chance she's the one looking at your email, not me, unless she escalates it for me to look at. So she needs to not make me look like a knucklehead, right? So, or he, in this example of, where we haven't hired this person. What do we have for nice to have? So we'll keep that. Maybe if I, sat down longer, we'd add maybe one, take one away, but I'm going to go with this. Nice to have. I mean, this is a nice to have. That's great. Don't really care about event planning for my role thought process. This extremely important, which really goes into, exceptional organization, but we'll leave it there. These are all nice to haves. And then, so we already got, guys, our job description, page 1, what we would be posting on our hiring platform already done, essentially. You'll notice we didn't do the compensation. What we will do is we're actually going to utilize Google if you've never done salary research before. So we're going to do average salary for executive assistants. I'm in Mesa, Arizona, and I'm going to use salary.com. My company, we invest in a software that we spend literally close to $10,000 a year for real-time data for roles. But our companies do, collectively over last year, $30 million. So yes, we take it seriously. We have over 100 employees between different states. And it's a lot more complex. This is not what I use, but this is, if you're hiring your first person, your first few people, you have a small team, salary.com is good enough to get you some reasonable information. So I do want to just preface that, though, that this is not what we use. We pay for a software, but I want you to be able to do this for free. So that's why we're here on salary.com. So we went to Google, we just searched executive assistant salary, and we're just going to look at a few things here. We're not going to go through this whole, process of all of this. We're just going to get a good gut check. And so let's just look. So median, kind of middle range is around 70,000. High end range is around 90,000, very low in the mid 50s. So we can safely say, and somebody's probably going to comment and say, you could do way more and da da da. Yes, of course. Again, we're trying to get the concept across here. So if we're looking at a range of 63 to 81, let's look at this as, okay, you have to make the decision for yourself. I'm going to say, well, maybe I'll do a range based on experience and I'll call it, 65 to 75, because that kind of puts us right in this mid range for the city that I'm located in. You can do this for your city, obviously, the role that I'm hiring for, and we see the ranges of what other people are being paid. So I'm going to go back to our job description template, and that's what we're going to go with. So here we are. We're going to do 65,000 to 75,000, depending on experience. And we're going to call it a day right there. So now the next step of our job template is, honestly, this second page is where most companies get this wrong when they hire people. There is, like what their role actually is, but what are the keys to winning in that role? So we need to create clarity of role for our new hire and then create some goals for them. So that's what we're going to do together. And you could be doing this alongside me and we will knock it out. So we're going to change this up. Executive assistant is the title. What were our three functions in this role? So we're just going to change these over to what the functions that we have. And guys, just so everyone knows, I'm not changing the font and making it pretty and da-da-da. I'm making this minimum viable done. And obviously, before I'd go and post, I would be making sure that I'm making it look pretty and presentable and, not run on sentences or anything like that. In reality, it wouldn't be me, it would be my team, because I'm not great at that stuff anyways. But these are our main responsibilities of this role. Key 4 responsibilities, and then define what success means in this role. Let's go back over to ChatGPT. So here we are, clarity of role, da-da-da. So let's just steal this. Again, I made this so you can steal it, and then you could make this faster for yourself. Let's just drop this in here. Let's see here. Apologize. This is going in the wrong section here. This is actually for clarity as a whole, as a team. So what's the purpose of this? So the purpose of having the clarity as a whole is to kind of help team members that might have overlap with other departments, is to give them clarity of how they interact with other roles and how they kind of do different things within the organization. So that's essentially what you're trying to do with this clarity as a whole. And then, who are they reporting to? Obviously, that's a pretty self-explanatory one. Back up to define what success means in this role. I'm going to be lazy and we're going to go back over here and we're going to say, if you had to write a 5 to 6 sentence paragraph that explains what overall success looks like in this role, what would that be? And just a good rule of thumb in general, guys, in business and life, the better questions we ask, the higher quality of answers that we get. And that comes true in the prompts that we use with ChatGPT as well. I like this. I'm going to steal this because that's what we're doing. All right, here we go. So, because this is what we got, we're going to drop this in here. And again, you can amend this and edit it. I'm just doing it for the exercise, but the purpose of this is so that the team member that you hire in the role could read this and they can know at all times, am I doing well in my role based off of what my leader told me success looks like in the role? And that's the purpose. So back over to ChatGPT. We saw our success metrics. Whatever role that you're going to be hiring for right now, I would highly recommend you have at least 30 and 60-day goals established. Sometimes the role, especially if it's very entry level, like you're hiring just like a cleaner for a cleaning company, you're probably not going to have 90-day roles. Like most of the things are going to be like, hey, they need to figure them out in the first 30 to 60 days or they're probably not going to work here anymore. And that's okay. So again, we're taking this, we're copying it from ChatGPT, and then we will edit it together here. All right, so clarify time frame within 30 days. Become familiar with CEO's schedule, key stakeholders, and the processes within each company. Understand the rhythm. Okay, let's just add on a couple other things. Take over all management of payments for all of the CEOs, personal bills, including all household bills. So let's just say we'll just throw that on there. Let's say 60 days. Let's say that there's, I don't know, an event coming up. Coordinate, or actually, this is a good one. So I have an EA and we have a nonprofit. So work as, assist as the project lead on our nonprofit dog rescue event coming up on October 6th, which this is actually true as time of recording, to ensure all of our volunteers have what they need to show up and do their jobs on day of event. It's like, I'm just throwing in just like, these are some things I want to see them taking on. Again, the goal of this is so that when you hire them, you sit down with them in their first week, you go over, you get clarity with them of like what this looks like. You read this to them, you ask them if they have questions, you edit it based off of if there's anything unclear. And then you share with them, these are the things I expect you to have accomplished in the first 30 days, first 60 days, first 90 days. How many bullet points should you have here? Well, rule of thumb, again, depends on the role, but call it 3, 4, maybe 5 at max on each of these that you're creating here. So we have 30 days, we have 60 days, and then we have 90 days. Let's see what ChatGPT said on here. Proactively identify areas for improvement. Da, da, da. Yep, easy, done. All right, we'll leave those. So we got that. Then we have here, we needed to edit this, executive assistant. We have this section down here as well. And then we have our KPIs for the role, which we will not spend too much time on, but let's just do this. Let's say create KPI or create Cody, my name obviously, Cody dashboard, operating. And this is obviously if this is a new role. So let's just say this is going to be for Q4 2024. And one of their key KPIs, like when with any role, like a sales role, your KPIs might just be you need to make 80 calls a day. You need to talk to 20 people or 15 to 20 of those people. And you need to make a sale every day. That might be the KPIs for a sales role. For roles that are more like this, I typically like quarterly will adjust around like major projects that I want them to accomplish for the quarter. And so we can, I'm just saying create a Cody operating dashboard. So this dashboard will be the total operating system for everything Cody, from personal to professional tasks and preferences. So that could be something that maybe I give her to do. And then another thing that I give her to do is, let's say this, create, implement, and iterate. I'm just making this up, guys. An email management system to allow Cody to spend 5 minutes or less a day in emails. So those could be two things. Another thing could be, again, this is just a project that we're giving them. Again, certain roles or key performance indicators are more just like the same things over and over again. But another major project could be something like our office update, remodel, and maintenance, and office SOP complete. So meaning, and I'm not going to write it out. I'm just, again, guys, just an example. I want to do some updates to the office. I want to remodel some things in our current office. There's some maintenance that needs to be done, and then there needs to be an office SOP for like our drinks, our snacks, how often we get the carpets cleaned, how often we service our HVAC units, how often the cleaners are coming, what do they clean when they come, like all of those SOPs. That's something like I'm just lumping into this is like that's a project for them to done, to set up and then actually execute on. So here we are. We have made it this far. So hopefully this is making sense. And now what do we do now that we have a role? What are we going to post and where are we going to post it? So here's what I would do. I would take this role. This is, just the page 1 here of our job description. Page 2 is for internal use, and you do share this with the hire once they're hired. But page 1 is what you'll actually publicly market with. When I'm talking about publicly marketing, just like you need to market for leads for your business, you need to market for talent. So we want to, again, the more compelling this, market offering for the role is, the more talent, the more leads you'll get, and will bring you better quality team members. So from there, the next step is, okay, where are we going to post this? Very, very simple on this. And I'm not even going to take too much time into this, but here we have Indeed. Our company has tried ZipRecruiter. We've tried other hiring platforms as well, and we've found Indeed works the best. So good that all of our US-based team members, 100% of the people we have hired over the last 5 years have either been hires through Indeed directly or from referrals from people that we hired through Indeed. This is a great option. I have this, obviously the link in the description if you've never used it before. This is where we actually go and put the job out to actually hire on Indeed. So we have that. We've went through so far the job description. We know what we're going to pay the role. We know where we're actually going to go post the role. And then now we need to talk about, well, you start getting applications. What are we going to do with those applications? So here's what I would recommend. Depending on the role that you're actually hiring for, you could have anywhere from like a 1 to a 3-step interview process. And so let's go ahead and jump over to some interview questions. And again, these are in the description below. You can get a template of this and you'll get access here. I would always recommend doing at least a two-step interview process for most roles in the company. Certain roles you may not, because they're very, very basic entry level, and it might just be a 1 interview. There are some best practices here. I'm not going to read them because you can read them on your own, but I will just talk through these 2 stages. We're going to do an example of a 2-step interview process. So for this example of executive assistant, I am going to do a 2-step interview. Interview 1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the candidate either on a phone call or on a Zoom call. Obviously, if you're hiring this remote, then all of your stuff's going to be, on Zoom or the phone. But if this is an in-person role, I'm going to do the first interview, and I'm typically going to be spending about 15 to 25 minutes on the first interview, which is what we call our cultural interview, which is really just getting to know the candidate a little bit more, identify any red flags that they bring up in that first initial interview. And then, as you see here, in that first interview, asking a few questions. Don't ask all 10 of these, guys. Do not do that. This is just to give you some questions to start with. I would always start with at least the first 2. It's like, hey, tell me about yourself. Walk me through the role that you're in today, and then your last maybe 1 or 2 roles, so you can get an understanding of where they are, where they've been. Obviously, at this point, you've already reviewed their resume and you have an understanding of their background and experience. And some of the things that I really like to ask in the cultural interview is to see if they actually give a damn about my company or if they just want a job to get paid. And that's this one here, which what research did you do about our company? And obviously, if you're a very new company and you have nothing online about your company, there's no Glassdoor, there's no Indeed account, there's no YouTube, there's no anything, then this is going to be less relevant for you because they're not going to be able to do much research. But if you do have those things, this is helpful. If you ask them, what research did you do about my company? And they just say, oh, I just saw the ad online. It's like, so you didn't care to even go an extra step to look up anything about us or learn anything about us to see if you'd even like to be here. So that sometimes can be a red flag depending on, your brand. I like to know why they're interested in the role and, some of their ideal work environments. Because if you have in your ad that the job is in-house and the person's applying and they say, hey, I would like to start in-house, but within a few months, I'd want to go 100% remote, and that just doesn't work for you, you can just move on to the next candidate. So really, you're just trying to identify within some of these questions that are just hard no's for you. And then also just kind of get a feel for does this personality, is this someone that you get along with well to move through your interview process? So that's your step 1 of the interview process. Step 2 would be, okay, if you pass them and say this is an executive assistant, then I take it to an in-person interview. And during that in-person interview, what I'm going to be doing is maybe asking a few of the questions that I didn't ask on here. And then I'm getting more into the technical requirements for the job and asking them more technical questions, which those are relevant so that you can make sure they could do the job. What we'll use in our interviews is we actually have a scorecard. So we don't just go off a feeling from the interview. We want to score all candidates because we want to treat everyone equal in the interview process and make sure we really are scoring them the same way. So This is a scorecard that we utilize. And so for this role, for the executive assistant, and again, you can get these resources in the description below. For this role, we have a weighted system here, and then you're giving them ratings. So let's say I interview a candidate and I'm like, okay, they're a 9 out of 10 there. Their problem solving skills, feel good about attention to detail. Oh my gosh, they were so detail oriented during the interview process. Like they explained things in detail. Let's say their team collaboration, they gave me specific examples around that. So you're rating them well. So you're going through and rating. And then here's like two, these are just, they're marked at 0% because it might be something that's niche to the role you're hiring for. So you can create your own weight. So let's say I'm like, attention to detail maybe is not as important, but I do need to make sure that they have communication skills. And so I'm going to give them a 10 here. And that's a win for me. So you can play around with these a bit and make them as relevant to your role as possible. And then you'll be able to notice it's like, you go out into an interview, you give them a 7 here, and then you give them a 4. And this is going to change the feedback that it gives you to help you. And by no means is this the foolproof thing of like, this is exactly what's going to get you the perfect candidate. But what it does is it helps you take some of the emotion out of the conversation. And when you're scoring them on this, you're getting some real feedback to really know, okay, should I move forward with this person? Should I not? And when you're looking at the categories, you can use these to create questions in that final interview. You could ask technical things around the job, which will help you rate this. You can ask them to share a major problem that came up in their last role and what steps they took to solve that problem, how they dealt with it, to know how well they solve problems. You could ask them about a time where they had to manage a project that had high attention to detail. How did they go about attacking that project step by step, every stage in that process? What did they have to do? Team collaboration. Ask them about a time where they had to, in an environment that they've maybe had to work with people they liked and other people they didn't like. From a strategic people standpoint, work with people they don't like or people that, maybe disagree with them, right? Like these are things that you could ask and then you could rate to get yourself this rating system when you finish that interview to know whether you want to then move forward with hiring this person or whether you need to continue hiring and continue getting other people into that initial cultural interview before you do the final in-person technical with them. And so that's essentially it when it comes to the interview, the second stage of the interview, and if you may be wondering, well, why would you ever do 3 interviews? Well, it's more for like higher level roles that you'd maybe do that. So like, for example, when we hired our head of operations that was going to head up the operations for our entire portfolio of companies that does millions and millions of dollars a year. Yeah, that's an important hire. So we did not only a cultural interview on Zoom, but then we did a technical where we tested a lot of her technical capabilities to make sure they could do the role. And then the third interview was an in-person panel where she came in and sat down with not only myself, we had my CFO in there, which she would be working with on a day-to-day basis. We had my business partner in there, which she would also be engaging with on a regular basis. So we had a panel to ask from, and then we all had scorecards to rate based off of. And that's where you sometimes do that third step because it's such a mission critical role that is so detailed and so nuanced, and that if this role is done wrong, it can literally cost the company hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars if you don't do it right. So those are some key considerations when you're doing that. Another quick example of a work study is, we've hired a lot of video editors over the years. And during that technical stage of your interview, you can test someone maybe on their editing skills, like give them a video as part of their work interview and say, hey, I need you to edit this video into one long form video and then create 2 or 3 reels with it and then see how fast they turn it around and then what the quality is. Because then you can get a real time sense of how fast they are at doing the job and what the quality of work's actually going to look like. I never really like to look at someone's portfolio of work because I don't care. I don't know if it's true or not true. But what I do know is if I give them a video or a task or a job to do on the spot, then I could see how well they're going to actually do in the role day to day. Another example, recently we hired another new finance team member, and during the part of the work study or technical interview, my CFO, what he did was he brought the candidate in. He had 3 different candidates actually that went through this part of the process. And when those candidates came in, he sat down with them. And basically what he did was he pulled up his computer, passed over the computer to them and gave them a QuickBooks file of a sample test company that the books were wrong. The things weren't categorized correctly, and there's a lot of mess there. And so their technical interview was literally, he gave them that, and then the technical was identify what's wrong with these books as step one. Step two, fix the books. Step three, make a recommendation of how they're going to be then kept up by another team member going forward, because that was going to be a finance team member that then would have to oversee other team members that would be now managing those books. And then they had to, answer some other, technical finance things. But, those are just some ideas, giving you some ideas of things that you can do to make sure that you really vet the candidate well, to make sure they're going to be a good fit for your company and they know what the heck they're doing, not just say that they know what they're doing. Because there's nothing worse than hiring someone that interviewed well and then they get into the job and then they flop and they suck and they just cannot do the job. And now you have to go back to the drawing boards after wasting the time and wasting the money to hire them. So that is what, again, the goal of this video is to help prevent you from going through that and to be able to hire like a pro. And so with all of that being said, I know we went into the weeds here, but all of the resources that, I was screen sharing and going over with you, you can access all of those resources in the description below. And by the way, everyone that's a part of our Scale with Pros community gets help with all of these things from not only myself, but my leadership team that manages the companies that we own and run on a day-to-day basis. And so if you want more help and access to additional resources like this, you can check out the link below for the Scale with Pros community, learn a little bit more about the program, because our goal within Scale with Pros is to help you create a self-managing company and to create a business truly beyond yourself. So with that, get the resources downloaded and we'll see you in the next video.